Marijuana's influence in art history is so vast, it's hard to cover everything. The plant's use can be dated back thousands of years and for most of history remained legal. Racism is what ultimately fueled the first laws outlawing marijuana in the early 1900s and was directed mostly toward Latin Americans and black jazz musicians. Louis Armstrong and others from that time were introducing a new type of music and were regular users of marijuana. The commonly shared belief among these artists is that it made their music more imaginative and unique. Marijuana's influence among 1960s counterculture and through the 70s is blatantly obvious, and artists like the Beatles, Bob Marley, Bob Dylan, and the Rolling Stones were all avid marijuana smokers. The messages of peace, self-discovery, and liberation from illegitimate authority were common themes among the music at this time and also helped fuel the Vietnam War protests and civil rights movements. Today there are many famous celebrities who are outspoken about their marijuana use and how they think it has helped them in one way or another. Author Stephen King was an avid marijuana user and is one of the most renowned authors of our time. Artists like Snoop Dogg or Wiz Khalifa are a lot more open about their use of the drug in their songs, but this may or may not take away substance from the song itself and the thought or emotion that was put into writing it. You don't have to look too hard to see marijuana's influence on various forms of art, especially music, but the more you look, the more you understand how it has influenced culture and the different ways of thinking over the years. LSD is a potent psychedelic compound that was synthesized from an ergot fungus growing on rye in 1938 by scientist Dr. Albert Hofmann. One area where LSD's influence can clearly be seen is in the music coming out in the second half of the 1960s with albums like the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's or the Jimi Hendrix Experience, Are You Experienced? Both containing obvious references alluding to different aspects of an LSD trip. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is probably the most famous and well-known of these pieces of art. Artists like Jimi Hendrix or The Doors allowed LSD's psychedelic influence to be seen in more subtle ways, but its influence is undeniable. In fact, the band name The Doors comes directly from Aldous Huxley's book The Doors of Perception, which documents his experience and reflection of using mescaline, a psychedelic that produces similar effects as LSD. Hendrix's integration of LSD's psychedelic nature can be seen through many of his works both lyrically and through his unique expression of intense emotion with the way he played his guitar. Interestingly enough, Steve Jobs, the genius behind Apple, stated that taking LSD was one of the three most significant events of his life, and his technology has become the foundation of many of our daily routines. Now, this is not an attempt to persuade anyone to use marijuana, LSD, or any illegal substance for that matter, but simply an attempt to give you an idea of how these drugs have influenced culture, music, and other art forms we encounter every day. What are all the drugs that you've done?
Alcohol, tobacco, weed, mushrooms, ecstasy, Adderall, 4-ACO-DIPT, and 4-ACO-DMT, both of which are psilocin analogs, 5-MeO-MIPT, which is a tryptamine, 2CI, phenethylamine hallucinogen, LSD, Xanax I've tried, cocaine, ketamine.
Alright, so when did you start using drugs and what was it exactly?
I started using marijuana in the weekend before my freshman year of high school started.
And do you continue now?
Yeah, I still continue to smoke.
Okay, and why do you continue?
I think it just opens up like a new perspective on life. I mean, I think it's just made me more like self-conscious and like conscious of myself and the actions that I do and conscious of people and their actions and like why they do the things that they do. It gives you just a different perspective on life, like with any music that's been made like late 60s, early 70s. I mean, like a lot of psychedelic stuff like Jimi Hendrix or the Beatles. I think you can't get the full experience listening to it just sober. I think like definitely it's meant to be listened to sober, but like when you're if you're under the influence of like marijuana or like LSD, something a little more extreme, you're gaining a perspective onto what they were thinking at that time, and it's just something you can't gain otherwise, I don't think.
I'm gonna wave my freak flag high.
and why those?
I use like various stimulants, cocaine and Adderall, just because I feel more productive when using them. And then I still dabble in the psychedelics because I think there are always things to be learned through the use of those drugs.
I don't know why marijuana is illegal, honestly. Like, I haven't. There's been a few negative moments, but that had nothing to do with me, but just stories that I've heard. But other than that, like LSD and all that acid and other stuff, that's a little more extreme. But marijuana, I don't know why it's illegal. I really don't. I don't understand it.
All right. So do you think you would have been a better person had you not done any drugs at all?
Nah, I think it would have been the same.
Have drugs influenced your music taste at all?
I would say yes, because I had no interest in psychedelic music, particularly in music from like the 60s and some music from the 70s. It's like I liked the Doors, but like the Beatles, for instance, I didn't really have much of an interest in. It wasn't until after trying drugs that I gave it another shot and had and earned a better understanding of that kind of music. And I think it's made me more open-minded towards other types of music that are vaguely psychedelic, but more recent along the lines of like Flying Lotus is something I just totally didn't get before and get now.
So do you regret anything about smoking marijuana or any other drugs? Have they had any negative impacts?
Well, the only negative impact I would say would be the judgment of other people, because for other people they see it as wrong, and that can lead to negative interaction between you and another person. But if everyone saw it the same, I don't think there would be any negative effects.
So you think like the reason why people get like paranoid and stuff is only because it's illegal? And,
Yes.
Like, the view they already have about it.
Come together right now over me. Right.
So why did you continue to use marijuana?
It's because it's fun, really.
Is that the only one that you continue to use?
Yeah, I never done drugs. Like I said,
Okay.
I'm considered weed a drug.
Okay.
I don't really like drugs. I don't know.
Do you regret anything about smoking marijuana, or has it had any negative impacts in your life?
To be honest, the only thing I regret is not having more sometimes. But that's about it, really. What was the other thing? Regret or something?
Yeah, like, has it made you do anything that you regret at all?
I can't remember what was it, but one time I smoked and then I had something really important to do, and I kind of did bad, so I kind of wish I didn't smoke at that time.
Okay. Do you think drugs have influenced your personality?
Yes, I do think they have. I think they've made me a more empathetic person, more understanding of people around me, and then of my environment in general. Whereas I was more logical and pragmatic before and less emotional. So that is definitely a personality change.
Is there any negative impacts that it's had on you?
With marijuana, maybe just like early on in my use, just like relationship stuff. Like I would always like maybe try to avoid some people when I was like high or something, because like I couldn't handle it, or just like stuff maybe even with my parents sometimes, like you don't want to talk to them because like you're high or something like that. But I think now today I'm a lot like more experienced with my usage now, so it's like it doesn't get in the way of my relationships or anything like that. I can still function like everyday normal things.
Do you think you would have been a better, worse, or about the same person you are today had you not used any drugs?
I think I would have been a more boring person had I never used drugs. I think I'm fairly satisfied with the person I turned out to be, and I can't really think of an outcome in which I wouldn't have tried drugs. The variety and frequency might have been slightly different, but I think it's been really important to my process of growing up and kind of becoming a whole person, and I would say overall it's been a positive impact.
Speaking